My presentation today is entitled Huff and Puff. Previously in my dietary journey, I have described topics including the bullseye, which I will talk again about, superfoods, I need a drink, in other words, water, alcohol, and I need a nap or rest. The subject of temperance in all its bearings has an important place in the work of salvation. God's word declares, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. In a simple dartboard target, there are a series of concentric rings around a central circle. The central circle is the bullseye. Hitting the bullseye results in the greatest number of points, the greatest benefit for your effort. Hitting succeeding rings outside the central circle results in lesser number of points, less benefit for your efforts. The greatest benefit for your efforts results from accumulating the greatest number of points, the greatest reward for your efforts throughout the period of play. In a similar manner, hitting the bullseye in our lifestyle results in the greatest benefit. So, in our health and temperance time together, we will look at what our God has told us has the greatest benefit for both our short lives here on earth and our future eternal lives with Jesus in heaven. The central bullseye is that which God first told Adam and Eve immediately following their creation. And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." Genesis 1, verse 29. In health and in sickness, pure water is one of heaven's choicest blessings. Its proper use promotes health. It is the beverage which God provided, pure water, to quench the thirst of animals and man. Drunk freely, it helps to supply the necessities of the system and assist nature to resist disease. That's from the Ministry of Healing, page 237. Proper periods of sleep and rest and an abundance of physical exercise are essential to health of body and mind. So today we will discuss physical exercise as a benefit to our health, both physical and spiritual. Do you know this guy? Don't see any hands going up. Just one. Taken at work in the fall of 1976. At that time, my weight was 225 pounds. 6 months later, in 1977, my weight had dropped to 195 pounds through simple changes in my diet. 25 years later, my weight had dropped to 165 pounds through adopting the many dietary counsels of the Bible and the testimonies of Jesus, plus a light exercise program to restore the shape of my body. 11 years later, my weight had dropped to 150 pounds through even more changes to my diet to comply with the overlooked or unadopted dietary counsels of the Bible and the testimonies of Jesus, especially those found in the counsels on diet and foods and in counsels on health, both written by Ellen G. White. Did exercise play a role in the steady weight loss? Yes, but only to a limited extent. Exercise can drive a limited weight loss of around 10 pounds, but the major effect is on the strength and shape of the body as weight is lost. Today, 10 years later, in 2023, my weight has now stabilized at 140 pounds. In 1986, I ruptured my Achilles tendon, which required surgery and a period of rest to heal. To avoid adhesions from the body tissues trying to grow together where they had been cut, it was recommended that I use a stationary bicycle to flex my foot and also extend the shortened Achilles tendon. I liked the effect of exercise on the shape of my body, so I slowly, over the years, added to the stationary bicycle other forms of exercise, such as walking outdoors and on a treadmill, and working out on a weight-lift station. But you will ask, what is the best exercise? Everything in this world of sin exhibits a distribution of strength, materials or animal, including humans. If that strength distribution is sufficiently stronger than any of the many random stresses to which our machines or bodies are subject, then there will be no failure. But as is often the case, some of the strength distribution at the weaker end extends into the higher stresses that may be encountered. In addition, as materials and animals, including humans, age, the strength distribution degrades. We become weaker as we age. The random nature of failures is, thus, a consequence of the distribution and degradation of the strength as well as the random occurrences of stresses. When we attempt to determine a best exercise, one of the elements to consider is the safety of the exercise, the control over the occurrence of excessive stress events. For example, many sports such as football, soccer, basketball, even tennis have obvious potentials for unexpected and uncontrolled damaging stress events. So how might we analyze what is the best exercise? First, we need to define our criteria. For example, strength, both muscle strength and bone strength, stamina, such as endurance and heart rate, both maximum heart rate and resting, safety, the freedom from danger, and productivity, any output gain other than physical health. Swimming, walking, running, weightlifting, casual sports, and even gardening are just some of the popular forms of exercise. A weighted effectiveness for each exercise and each criteria is established according to your opinion. There are no effectiveness ratings that are commonly accepted, although many are close. The numbers under each exercise must add up to 100%. Priority. How important are the criteria of strength, stamina, safety, and productivity to you? The priority numbers add up to 100%. To determine the rankings for each exercise, given your priorities, the number under the exercise and in line with the criteria are multiplied together, and each result for all the criteria are added together to give a ranking number. For a young male, often the goal is to achieve a muscular physique. So weightlifting is the best exercise, although not the safest. In the middle years of adulthood, many adults begin to feel the declining strength and stamina. And while they are somewhat more concerned about the safety of the exercise, they are focused on regaining what is declining. So running is a popular exercise, with swimming a tie also. In the advanced years, muscles are going away despite exercise. Safety and the awakening concern for bone density make walking the best exercise, with swimming and gardening becoming good alternatives. Of course, if we want the exercise to produce more than just good health, gardening or some similar physical exercise that has a useful product can become the best choice. From Counsels on Health, page 200, those who are feeble and indolent should not yield to their inclination to be inactive, thus depriving themselves of air and sunlight, but should practice exercising out of doors, in walking or working in the garden. They will become very much fatigued, but this will not injure them. Continuing the Counsels on Health, page 200, it is not good policy to give up the use of certain muscles because pain is felt when they are exercised. The pain is frequently caused by the effort of nature to give life and vigor to those parts that have become partially lifeless through inaction. The motion of these long, disused muscles will cause pain because nature is awakening them to life. Walking, in all cases where it is possible, is the best remedy for diseased bodies, because in this exercise, all the organs of the body are brought into use. From the Testimonies for the Church, Volume 3, page 78. Continuing, there is no exercise that can take the place of walking. By it, the circulation of the blood is greatly improved. Now, excuse me, I'm late for my walk. I promised this one to you earlier on in one of my earlier presentations. Hi, my name is Terry, and I am a sugar addict. As a young child, I would load up the cereal bowl with milk and sugar. When I was done eating the cereal, I would drink the remaining sugar sludge in the bottom of the bowl. It is amazing that I am even still alive. As a teenager, when I returned home after school, I would bake a cake for our dinners. And yes, I did make checkerboard cakes like this one. But I also thought that the icing should be crunchy from so much sugar. Any of this sounding familiar? Or am I the only one? On a beautiful September evening, while we were walking around our neighborhood, Ginny twisted her ankle on Ginny Drive. She was to leave in just an hour for her microbiology class. When she realized that she would not be able to attend the class that evening, she asked me to attend with a tape recorder and a notepad. This I did for her. That evening, the professor said something about our immune system, the nature of bacteria, and sugar that changed my eating habits. From Proverbs 25, verse 27, the first part, it is not good to eat much honey. Honey was considered one of life's necessities. One must not, however, eat too much. This is going to get a little complex, and I'll try to go slow so you can digest it. There are two ways in which the sucrose molecule is modeled. The red cells are oxygen, the gray cells are carbon, and the small white cells are hydrogen. Notice the carbon ring, the basic three elements, and the CH2OH tails. These are called hydroxymethyl, but they are not a complete molecule by themselves. One more hydrogen atom in the middle, and it would become CH3OH, or methanol, the simplest alcohol and far more toxic than ethanol, which is our drinking alcohol. This is what I learned when I attended Jenny's microbiology class. Most gram-positive bacteria have cell walls composed of peptidoglycan, which is a polymer composed of sugars and amino acids. To the immune system, these bacteria look like and taste like M&Ms, metaphorically speaking. Gram-negative bacteria cells also have sugar, another form of sugar, lipopolysaccharide, in the surface of their cells. It is composed of 4 to 6 sugar molecules. Monosaccharides are a simple sugar molecule that cannot be hydrolyzed to a simpler chemical compound. Look closely. Do you see peptidoglycan again? There it is. There it is in the secondary layer. 2 layers of sugar, like a chocolate-coated M&M. I should note that while viruses have a protein cellular wall, they are not alive by themselves. They are parasites of other cells, including bacteria. The primary defense against bacteria and some viruses is the white blood cell that circulates in the blood vessels of the body. It is looking for the taste of sugar. That is, the outer wall of most bacteria. Sugar, sucrose or glucose, blind the white blood cells to the taste of the bacteria. The more sugar that is ingested in your diet, the less effective is your immune system to find and kill the bacteria that are making you weak and sick. This chart illustrates the dramatic decline in the number of bacteria destroyed by white blood cells in a half-hour period when an average adult eats food containing sugar. Just one piece of apple pie is enough sugar to reduce the effectiveness of the white blood cells in their battle with bacteria by greater than 25% for more than a day. But who can eat just one? 2 pieces of apple pie is sufficient to reduce the effectiveness of the white blood cells more than 60% for a whole day. Are some of your favorite foods on this list? This is just a short list to illustrate how sugar sneaks into our diet. In addition to honey, I imagine that I can name several pure forms of sugar that are currently present in your pantry or refrigerator. Granulated sugar, confectioner's sugar, which we know as powdered sugar, maple syrup, buttered syrup, brown sugar, and others too numerous to continue. It is my personal contention that we do not get sick in the winter from the cold, which is why they're called colds, nor the dry air indoors, nor from the congregation of many people in holiday parties, nor from even overeating, except for the high levels of sugar that are consumed. Halloween with mostly sugary treats. Thanksgiving with pies, including pumpkin, apple, and other treats. Christmas with, again, sugary desserts. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And let's not forget the college football bowls, the professional football playoffs, and finally the Super Bowl. And even then, it's not over. For some, there is still the Valentine's Day and the heart-shaped box of chocolates and a chocolate bunny. From the Council on Diet and Foods, the free use of sugar in any form tends to clog the system and is not unfrequently a cause of disease. The sugar addiction cycle is insidious in its persistence. It is especially strong if you start the day with the first dose of sugar. You eat sugar. You like it. You crave it. It has addictive properties. Blood sugar levels spike. Dopamine is released in the brain. This equals addiction. Mass insulin secreted to drop the blood sugar levels. The blood sugar levels fall rapidly. The high insulin levels cause immediate fat storage. So the sugar you enjoyed now became fat on your hips. And then the body craves the lost sugar high. So we enter into the hunger and cravings. The low blood sugar level causes increased appetite and cravings, and the cycle is repeated. My recommendation, replace the processed sugar with fruit. Apples, oranges, grapes, bananas, peaches, strawberries, etc. These are easy to digest with none of the sugar highs and lows. Give us this day our daily bread. From Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 475, we are told that there is practical religion in a loaf of good bread. It is not my intention today to teach you how to make your own bread. Rather, I propose to discuss the ingredients and the process of making yeast-raised bread, and then to draw some lessons in practical religion from this. We do make our own bread at home, so this is not some theoretical scholastic exercise, but rather lessons learned through the experience and the joy of eating our own homemade fresh bread. There are 4 types of bread. As Thomas pointed out, the only recipe for bread in the Bible, and I'll debate that with you, is Ezekiel 4:29. But that is a sustenance bread during a siege of the city when they had run out of grains, and so it was a substitute for normal bread. There is unleavened flat bread. There is yeast-raised breads, and there are quick breads raised by baking powder or other chemically reactive components. Our family makes 2 types of unleavened flatbreads. We make corn oat waffles and sweet potato roti, or flatbread. Flatbreads are unleavened. They do not have any yeast or chemical reaction to make the small bubbles. Our corn oat waffles and the sweet potato roti depend upon the included water turning to steam when baked to make the bubbles. The most notable bread recipe in the Bible is that of the unleavened bread that is placed upon the table of showbread once each week. Leviticus 24:5 says, "And you shall take fine flour and bake 12 cakes with it." There is only one ingredient mentioned, that being fine flour. Obviously, there must be some liquid with which to mix the flour, water being the obvious answer. These 12 loaves, placed on the table each Sabbath, must last for one whole week to the next Sabbath, and then are to be eaten for the following week by the priests of the temple. Using any oil would prohibit the bread loaves from remaining fresh for 2 whole weeks, at least not without the miraculous intervention of God. There is no leavening agent, so the bubbles in the bread must be from the steam of the water when baking. Our family regularly makes 3 types of yeast-raised bread: 100% whole wheat pecan bread, whole wheat pizza shells, and occasionally whole wheat dinner rolls. It is a religious duty for every Christian girl and woman, and I will add to that men too, to learn to make good, sweet, light bread from unbolted wheat flour. From the Christian Temperance and Hygiene, page 157. Bolted is a term that goes back at least as far as the 16th century. It is another term for sifting, but is used throughout the milling industry. For our purpose, it means the whole grain flour has most of the bran sifted out, but all of the germ and other nutrients remain. This lightens the flour. Unbolted then means the use of the entire grain, seed finely ground. From the Ministry of Healing, page 300 by Ellen G. White. For use in bread making, the superfine white flour is not the best. Its use is neither healthful nor economical. Fine flour bread is lacking in nutritive elements to be found in bread made from the whole wheat. It is a frequent cause of constipation and other unhealthful conditions. There are 5 basic ingredients employed to make yeast-raised bread: flour, water, yeast, sugar to feed the yeast, and salt to retard the growth of the yeast so that the bubbles do not become too large. Commercial bread, commonly available in public grocery stores, typically use vinegar instead of salt to retard the growth of the yeast. From Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 316, we are told bread loaves should be small and so thoroughly baked that as far as possible the yeast germ shall be destroyed. When hot or new, raised bread of any kind is difficult of digestion. It should never appear on the table. This rule does not, however, apply to unleavened bread. Going on, milk should not be used to make bread, only water. Bread made with milk ferments more readily in the stomach. The yeast breaks sugar down into carbon dioxide and water. Enzymes present in yeast and flour also help to speed up the reaction. When there is plenty of oxygen present, the yeast consume the sugar and use the oxygen to make carbon dioxide gas, water, and energy. In a bread dough where the oxygen supply is limited, the yeast can only partially break down the sugar. Then alcohol and carbon dioxide are produced. In this process, known as alcoholic fermentation, during normal yeast fermentation, where sufficient oxygen is available, each yeast cell forms a center around which carbon dioxide bubbles form. Thousands of tiny bubbles, each surrounded by a thin film of gluten, form bubble cells inside the dough piece. The carbon dioxide produced in these reactions causes the dough to rise, and the alcohol produced mostly evaporates from the dough during the baking process. The increase in dough size occurs as these cells fill with the carbon dioxide gas. When alcohol production is desired, specific types of yeast which are more prolific at producing alcohol are used in a very limited oxygen environment, sealed barrels, tanks, or bottles. Under these conditions, the yeast produces ethyl alcohol, some carbon dioxide, and energy. The third type of bread we never make, that is baking powder raised quick breads, sometimes known as sweetbreads. Cakes, biscuits, pancakes, and many more. Chemical leavens are mixtures of compounds that release gases when they react with each other, with moisture, or with heat. Most are based on a combination of acid and a salt of bicarbonate. After they act, these compounds leave behind a chemical salt. Chemical leavens are used in quick breads and cakes, as well as cookies, and numerous other applications where a long biological fermentation is impractical or undesirable. I also find them in many cereals. Testimonies of Jesus for these last days tell us that the use of soda or baking powder in bread making is harmful and unnecessary. Soda causes inflammation of the stomach and often poisons the entire system. Many housewives think that they cannot make good bread without soda, but this is an error. If they would take the trouble to learn better methods, their bread would be more wholesome, and to a natural taste, it would be more palatable. Sodium hydrogen bicarbonate is found in many commercial baked goods, including packaged dry cereals. When heated, it decomposes into water, carbon dioxide, which makes the bubbles, and sodium carbonate, which is a carbonic acid, and disodium salt. A carbonic acid disodium salt, a chemical irritant to the digestive system, and a very strong alkaline substance, which retards the digestive action of the stomach acids. Another chemical used in many baked goods is trisodium phosphate, also known as sodium phosphate, which is also a chemical irritant and a strong alkaline substance found in many breakfast cereals. Other similar chemical leavening agents are sodium aluminum sulfate, sodium aluminum phosphates, and sodium acid pyrophosphates. Hot biscuits raised with soda or baking powder should never appear on our tables. Such compounds are unfit to enter the stomach. Hot raised breads of any kind is difficult of digestion, found in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 341. In Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 343, Ellen White is quoted as writing, "In Testimonies to the Church, volume 2, we see sallow," today we would say sickly yellow, "complexions and groaning dyspeptics or sullen dispositions wherever we go. When we sit at the tables and eat the food cooked in the same manner as it has been for months and perhaps years, I wonder that these persons are alive. She further says, saleratus, which is also sodium or potassium bicarbonate, used as a leavening agent, in any form should not be introduced into the stomach, for the effect is fearful. It eats the coatings of the stomach, causes inflammation, and frequently poisons the entire system. I will continue my dietary journey when I next speak to you as a congregation again. And we will talk about digestion, what kind of animal are you, and cholesterol and statin.